right, Chelsea, we're going to ask you just to hang tight real quick. We know Rick Perry's about to come to the stage right now, so let's take a listen in. Former Texas governor about to announce his 2016 candidacy for president. You can see Rick Perry making his way to the podium, doing that kind of rope line hug and shake hands with some of his closest supporters there. We heard Mrs. Perry say a few moments ago that their children are there with him for the announcement today. And Rick Perry, here he goes, taking the podium right now. Well, gonna shake some more hands. We'll keep talking.
Yeah, gonna enjoy this moment, savor it, right?
Now, we know in the last election cycle, Walker, Texas Ranger Chuck Norris supported Mike Huckabee, but is he going to support Rick Perry this time?
We'll have to find out. There you go.
Rick Perry, though, okay, let's listen in. He's going to talk about his military experience. We know Navy SEALs are there as well to support him today. We heard that a little bit, too. Let's take a listen in. Rick Perry, right now about to announce his 2016 presidential bid.
Thank you very much. I love you, honey. You know, I was born 5 years after the end of a global war that killed more than 60 million people. I'm the son of a veteran of that war who flew 35 missions over war-torn Europe as a tail gunner on a B-17. When Dad returned home, he married Mom. They started a life together. They were tenant farmers. They were raised during a time of great hardship and had little expectation beyond living in peace, putting a roof over our heads and putting food on our table. Home was a place called Paint Creek. Too small to be called a town, but it was the center of my universe. For years we had an outhouse. Mom bathed us on the back porch in a number 2 wash tub. She also hand sewed my clothes till I went off to college. I attended Paint Creek Rural School, grades 1 through 12, played 6-man football, was a member of the Boy Scout Troop 48, became an Eagle Scout. I went off to Texas A&M, where I was a member of the Corps Cadets. I got my degree in animal science. I was proud to wear the uniform of our country as an Air Force officer and aircraft commander. After serving, I returned home. I returned home to those rolling plains and that big old sky of West Texas, and I returned to farming. You know, there is no person on earth more optimistic than a dry land cotton farmer. We always know that a good rain is just around the corner, no matter how long you've been waiting. The values learned on my family's cotton farm are timeless. The dignity of work, the integrity of your word, responsibility to community, the unbreakable bonds of family, and duty to country. These are enduring values, not the product of some idyllic past, but a touchstone of American life in our small towns, in our largest cities, in our booming suburbs. I've seen American life. I've seen it from the red dirt of a West Texas cotton field, from a campus in College Station, Texas, from the elevated view of a C-130 cockpit, and from the governor's office of the Texas Capitol. See, I had the great privilege to serve a rural community in the Texas legislature, and I led the world's 12th largest economy. I know that America has experienced great change, but what it means to be an American has never changed. We are the only nation in the world founded on the power of an idea that all that all are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Our rights come from God, not from government. Our people are not the subjects of government, but instead, government is subject to the people. It has always been the case that there's been this social compact between one generation of Americans and the next to pass along an inheritance of a stronger country full of greater promise and possibility. And that social compact, it has been protected at great sacrifice. It was never more clear to me than when I took my father to the American cemetery that overlooks the bluffs at Omaha Beach. On that peaceful, windswept setting, there lies 9,000 graves, including 45 pairs of brothers, 33 of whom are buried side by side, a father and a son, two sons of a president. They all traded their future for ours in a final act of loving sacrifice. In that American cemetery, it is no accident that each headstone faces west. West over the Atlantic, towards the nation they defended, the nation they loved, the nation they would never come home to. It struck me as I stood in the midst of those heroes that they look upon us in silent judgment, and that we must ask ourselves, are we worthy of their sacrifice? The truth is, we're at the end of an era of failed leadership. We have been led by a divider who has sliced and diced the electorate, pitting American against American for political purposes. 6 years into this so-called recovery, and I might add our economy is barely growing. This winter, it actually got smaller. Our economic slowdown is not inevitable. It just happens to be the direct result of bad economic policy. The President's tax and regulatory policies have slammed the door shut of opportunity for the average American who's trying to climb the economic ladder, resigning the middle class to stagnant wages, to personal debt, to deferred dreams. Weakness at home has led to weakness abroad. The world has descended into a chaos of this president's own making. While his White House loyalists, they construct an alternative universe where ISIS is contained, that Ramadi is merely a setback, where the nature of the enemy can't be acknowledged for fear of causing offense, where the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, the Islamic Republic of Iran, can be trusted to live up to a nuclear agreement. No decision has done more harm than the President's withdrawal of American troops from Iraq. Let no one be mistaken. Leaders of both parties have made grave mistakes in Iraq. But in January of 2009, when Barack Obama became commander-in-chief, Iraq had been largely pacified. America had won the war, but our president failed to secure the peace. How callous it seems now, as cities once secured with American blood are now being taken by America's enemies, all because of a campaign slogan. I saw during Vietnam a war where politicians didn't keep faith with the sacrifices and courage of America's fighting men and women, where men were ordered into combat without the full support of their civilian commanders. To see it happen again, 40 years later, because of political gamesmanship and dishonesty, is a national disgrace. But, my friends, we are a resilient country. You think about who we are. We've been through a civil war. We've been through 2 world wars. We've been through a Great Depression. We even made it through Jimmy Carter. We will make it through the Obama years. We will do this. You know, the fundamental nature of this country is our people never stay knocked down. We get back up. We dust ourselves off. We move forward. And you know what? We will do it again. I want to share some important truths with my fellow Americans today, starting with this truth. We don't have to settle for a world in chaos or an America that it shrinks from its responsibilities. We don't have to apologize for American exceptionalism or Western values. We don't have to accept slow growth that leaves behind the middle class, that leaves millions of Americans out of work. We don't have to settle for crumbling bureaucracies that target taxpayers and harm our veterans. We don't have to resign ourselves to debt, decay, and slow growth. We have the power to make things new again, to project America's strength again, and to get our economy going again.
There you go, Rick Perry, bringing it to you through the screen, getting the crowd excited.
Yeah.
Talking about his vision for the future. Dust ourselves off. We can do it again. The question, as I brought up earlier, and we'll talk to JD about this coming up, is yes, you were successful as a governor, but how do you translate that into what you can do for the White House and for the country? And he talked a lot about his success as Texas governor, the economic success that has had, and then talked about how he can do that in the future. And I was waiting for that kind of turn to happen. JD told me it was going to happen, and he certainly did. So we'll talk to JD. The other thing, Miranda, real quickly, we have Chelsea and Ford with us real quick. We got less than a minute left to go, guys. We'll get your take, about 20 seconds from each of you. Ford, go ahead.
Rarely do you get a second chance to make a first impression in politics. Rick Perry is going to have to do very, very well if he wants to win the nomination, and a lot of folks are going to have to trip and fall along the way because oops is very hard to recover from in the YouTube era.
All right, Chelsea, last word to you.
Absolutely. So listen, I barely remember his mistake last time. I think he's off to a good start. He has a great chance, just like all the other candidates, so I look forward to seeing him on the campaign trail.
All right, Chelsea.
Thank you both.
Henry, Ford O'Connell, thanks so much for being with us. More to come on the Rick Perry announcement. Interesting stuff. I thought it was also very interesting, basically saying that ISIS is Barack Obama's Vietnam.
Yeah, I thought it was saying that Bush ended the war and then Obama ended the peace, basically.
More to come on the Rick Perry announcement. Another hour Newsmax Now coming up right after this.